She built an online following that drew far more criticism than admiration. Still, there was something undeniably captivating about her tattooed eyeballs and the sheer scale of her physical transformation. So what pushed her to go this far? Few people realize that behind the shock value persona was a woman quietly battling personal turmoil and serious health issues. Every piercing, every surgery, concealed a life that was slipping further out of control. In the end, her relentless pursuit of a particular image contributed to her death at just 33 years old. Long before her Instagram feed became a gallery of extreme modifications, Mary Magdalene was known by another name, Denise Yvonne Jarvis Gongora. She was raised in Canada inside a household defined by strict religious rules. Even something as ordinary as watching cartoons or Disney films was forbidden, since her parents worried it would corrupt her. That kind of restriction didn't produce obedience. It produced rebellion. By the time she was 12, she was already drinking and using drugs, treating substances as an escape hatch from her rigid home life. She later admitted that those years were the wildest stretch of her life, showing up to school intoxicated and taking part in all sorts of risky behavior. Looking back, it's clear this wasn't really about rebellion for its own sake. It was a cry for connection and warmth she wasn't getting at home. Things didn't improve as she got older. Her strict, emotionally cold upbringing likely laid the groundwork for what came next, a lifelong pull toward cosmetic surgery as a way to seize control over her own image, something she'd never been allowed to do as a kid. At 17, she started dancing professionally, and not long after, she moved into escort work to support herself once she'd left home. She would later call this period of her life deeply damaging emotionally, a cycle of self-destructive habits where she searched for validation through her body and the attention it attracted. Somewhere along the way, her sense of self-worth became tied entirely to her looks. Eventually, she became convinced that aging would strip away her appeal. So at just 21, she decided she wanted breast augmentation, and she wanted it immediately, without waiting to save for a licensed surgeon. That impatience sent her to Mexico, where the procedure was carried out not by a plastic surgeon, but by a dentist. Predictably, it went badly, and that botched operation set the tone for everything that followed. From there, it was almost as though she developed a dependency on surgery itself. Despite the trauma of that first experience, she kept going, multiple rhinoplasties, liposuction, but implants, eyebrow tattoos, until she said she barely recognized her own reflection. Perhaps it was an attempt to bury her past, but piece by piece, she turned her body into an ever-changing project shaped by her own evolving idea of beauty. Each new procedure, though, brought its own new complications. Her liposuction didn't stay confined to her body. It affected her facial muscles too, eventually leaving her with trouble controlling her expressions. Repeated lip injections and fillers left her face so stiff that she struggled to fully close her mouth. As her fixation deepened, the procedures grew more extreme. Chasing a bigger, more exaggerated figure, she pursued but implants and Brazilian butt lifts, surgeries that carried significantly higher risk than what she'd done before. She didn't stop there. Over time, she spent roughly $500,000 on surgeries, and then kept spending to manage the fallout. One especially dangerous episode came when a breast implant ruptured, leaving her with what she described as a single-fused breast shape. The rupture triggered sepsis, forcing reconstructive surgery just to stabilize her. Even then, she wasn't willing to step back. Instead, she turned to tissue expanders, devices that slowly stretched the skin to prepare for even larger implants, in yet another attempt to fix what earlier surgeries had broken. She also came close to losing her eyesight after getting her eyeballs tattooed. Ink leaked from the procedure and began spreading into surrounding tissue, putting her vision at serious risk. She later said she nearly went blind, dealing with blurred vision and swelling that could have caused permanent damage. None of that stopped her. Her ongoing search for a new identity eventually led her to cover her entire body in blackout tattoo work. Years later, she opened up about feeling stuck in an endless loop of corrective surgeries meant to fix earlier botched work, calling the whole process utterly exhausting. Her savings kept draining as one fix demanded another, and she described feeling buried under a hole that felt impossible to climb out of, expensive, time-consuming, and draining her energy along with her health. Even with that awareness, she didn't stop chasing an image of beauty. defined less by any outside standard and more by her own increasingly distorted self-perception. By her mid-20s, her transformation had made her impossible to ignore online. Her Instagram, filled with dramatic body modifications, tattoos, and provocative posts, pulled in hundreds of thousands of followers. What made her stand out wasn't just how she looked. It was her willingness to push past every conventional boundary of beauty. While her appearance had become a personal burden, it was simultaneously fueling her fame. She grew almost as dependent on social media validation as she had on the surgeries themselves. Her tattooed eyes, enlarged figure, and constant stream of procedures became her signature, the very things people came to her page expecting to see. Plenty of people admired her willingness to embrace the unconventional, but just as many treated her as a warning sign about the dangers of cosmetic surgery. Either way, to her it was all attention, and attention meant she still had a sense of control over her own story. Her visibility jumped sharply after the Daily Mail ran a sensationalized feature on her, which helped push her further into viral territory. The first time it happened, she was thrilled. She felt like her refusal to apologize for who she was had struck a chord, and that response was exactly the validation she needed to keep going. Her surgical journey became central to her content. She regularly posted footage of her recovery process, showing both the pain and the healing stages of each new operation. That openness built trust with her audience and turned her into something of a reference point for others considering body modification. But as time passed, staying relevant became harder. The beauty and influencer landscape kept shifting, and what had once felt like exciting reinvention slowly turned into upkeep. More surgery just to maintain an image that had become as much about her online persona as her actual appearance. Fame carried a price, too. She admitted that obsessively checking who viewed her Instagram stories became a compulsion, a way of measuring her own relevance and popularity in real time. Her online presence expanded beyond Instagram into OnlyFans, where she shared more intimate content. She viewed it as a safer alternative to her earlier years in escorting. Yet despite the income, she still felt trapped.